go ahead and make a jar. Just gonna make it a simple little jar, something you can put stuff in, and able to cork the top of it with a cork you can find in any hardware store. So, I don't want to make just a clear jar, so I'm gonna do some color application as well. I do my color application a bit different than most people would do on the torch. A lot of people do what's called wrap and rake, where you take the color, heat it up, take the clear, and you drag stringers of color around that, and then you rake it or do whatever else you'd want with the color. Instead, what I'm going to do is take this rod that's in here, put a couple lines of color down each side, and it gives a pretty cool effect. Put a little of this multi on there. We'll go with this too. This is this color is called Super Unobtainium. So it's a nice dark blue with a bunch of sparkles in it. And for whatever reason, when people see sparkles in glass, they love it. Honestly, I gotta say, I dig it too. It's a great color. Any colors with sparkles in it are great colors to me too. Alright, so now we got those on there. We'll go ahead and put that back in the kiln, let that stay nice and hot so I get no cracks on my rod. Let me take my tubing here. Here's some more stuff that's different between us and my brethren over there in the hot shop. Is all of our stuff comes in colored rods or clear rods and glass tubing. I'm going to take some of this glass tubing here and preheat it so I can apply that without causing any cracks or stress to my glass. Another thing different is that I can plunge this right into the flame and not have to worry about thermal shock. Soft glass, you have to worry about thermal shock. You have to preheat it, which would be me doing a bunch of this before I go in and actually heat the tube. Don't need to do that with borosilicate. I can go right in and plunge it right into the heat. What I do is called surfing the flame. I utilize my small flame by turning my whole body and letting the flame kick down it. And it's also not allowing the flame to go down the tube and potentially cause stress to some of it and crack it. So by doing this, I'm keeping all the heat going in one direction as I slowly go down the tube. Now another thing we do here in lamp working is a lot of fuming, which means I'll take some pure silver or pure gold, fume it right onto this tube. Now that little trick was found out by Bob Snodgrass, one of the first guys to ever bring upon us the joys of fuming. He did it by accident. With most things that are found, you know, in glasswork or any kind of art, a lot of things are done on accident. Thank goodness for that accident, because it adds a lot of cool colors with little effort. So what I'm going to do now is put a little silver fume on this. So not only will I get cool colors from the rod I add over here, but I'll also get some blues and whites from the silver. And if I was to do some 24 karat gold, I would get pinks, reds, and yellows off that. What happens when you cross those colors with blues and whites? You get a rainbow spectrum. So it just makes it real easy to apply colors and such when you do that. A little more silver. So what I'm doing here, heating up the tip of this little rod nice and white hot so I can pick up that silver I just dropped on my tray here. Boom. There's a little chunk of silver right on the end of there. What I'm doing is the smoke from that, it's going to adhere to the glass. You can see the tube of glass turning all nice and whites and blues. Another reason why it's pretty vital to have good ventilation. You don't want to be breathing any of these metals. You can see the smoke going right up and into the ventilation, which is exactly what we want. So now I got all this blue and white on there. That's all nice and pretty, but that's a little too much for me. So what I do is I go in and I'll burn some off. Not too much, just enough. You can see it starting to go right there. I just slowly work up the tube. Kind of gives it a sky look, almost like blue sky with white clouds in there. So that's what that looks like after. It gives it a little bit of yellow look and everything. Don't worry about that. It comes back as blue in the end. So now that I got all the tube ready to apply my main color to it. My rag next to the bench to wipe off any kiln dust. Then we get going. For this application, I gotta get my torch pretty hot. I'm gonna go ahead and pinch off the end here so I can have a clean start. Don't want any bubbles or anything on the end. And then I'm gonna start at the top and slowly twist down. It's gonna give it a cane effect, obviously, because of the way I'm twisting. So this is how it actually looks like I'm, what most people think when they're in the glass blowing field. They'll come up to me and see some of my color application and think that I'm doing some coil wrap cane work, but it's actually, this is what I'm doing right here. It's basically along the same lines as coil potting, but I'm doing it over a tube. About halfway there. Down to the end. Make a little bit of a straight line, kick it down, then go around it one last time, and then terminate it. So now I got my tube all coated with some colored glass now. And under that is all that silver fuming, which is gonna look pretty nice when I get done. So here I go back to doing some surfing. There you can see I keep the whole piece hot by doing that. What I'm going to do is go over to my marver here. Everything nice and in line. Once I get everything in line, on center, I go back to the flame here. I'm going to do what's called a termination point. It's just going to make the end of this look prettier than it does now by giving it a nice swirled termination. So I heat up the end here nice and hot. Once I get it to my desired heat, I go in, give it a pinch, and a swirl. And I got my marble mold right here. After I heat up the tip, stick this in the mold. Give it a puff, and now I got a nice round end. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and heat this whole thing up so I can blow it out into a jar. I'm gonna use this big rod here as my punny because the heat that's gonna come off my big torch when I heat it up is gonna be a little bit hot. So I need something that's gonna hold up to that hot. It'll be this big guy right here, help me out. Pull that to a nice point. Apply my punny. So I got that on there. I'm going to go ahead and turn my small torch off here in a second as soon as I can let go of one of the sides. And get this guy cranking so I can melt this right down. Trying to still keep everything on center. Now just trying to heat all this up uniformly, and that uniformly would be called heat base. And what heat base is you're looking for everything in this one piece to all be the same color of heat. If you don't, if you wait till some of it's too cool, it'll blow out inproportionately and you won't have a happy piece at the end. Or you'll have a piece that will be happy, but you won't be happy, I guess I should say. I'm getting it all nice and hot. And as I'm getting it hot, I'm letting it gather itself up. Getting nice and thick in there. I'm also melting it all in so that there'll be no more creases. You see me going up and down on each side because this is a liquid, so I'm just trying to keep it all gathered in the same way and not going out of control. Just about there. There we go. Now I'm still waiting for that heat base. It may be a little off right there, but when I break this punny off, I'll reheat it all and get it all pretty for myself. Because as I said earlier, I'm a little particular. There we go. Now I'm just reheating it, getting it into the ball again. Get everything back on center. It's kind of the neat thing about glass is if you have it off center or whatnot, in more cases than not, you can melt it back down and work it back out to the preferred shape. That's the word I was looking for, preferred shape. What I'm doing is trying to thicken the walls a bit because this is a jar. It's always nice to have a jar with a little bit of durability. And if you're all wondering why my hand is not ripping hot, it's because glass is a non-conductor of heat, unlike metal. Now when I put that up to my lips, I'm barely blowing on that because like I said, I want to keep it kind of thick. And I just light my other torch with the radiant heat off the piece, turn my big guy off. So now what I'm going to do is make the flat part for this so it can sit down right. What I do for that is I just go in and heat the base with my small torch here. Pretty sure my bench is nice and level, so I'm going to use my marver on the bench here to make this nice and flat. Get it nice and warm like that. And just push it until it looks about on center to me. And I let go of the tube. So I mean, obviously if it's standing upright, it's gonna stand upright without the tube on it too. Got a nice flat end there. I like to go back in and zap it real quick because sometimes there's little ripples in there after pushing it. So give it a quick zap so it's all nice and melted. Then I come in with what's called ball grabbers. It's the actual term, not making it up. And what we're going to do here is terminate this off the tube. Preheat your tool a little bit, go in there and grab them. Tighten it up a bit. and go in here. Now when I pull this off, I'm going to pull it and give it a little blow at the same time so that I can make a thin wall that'll be easier to take off and do with what I need to. So I'm heating the colored point and the clear point. I'll pull it out. Make a nice thin wall, have it all in center still. Now I'm ready to pop a hole in there and clean up some stuff, make the top of the jar. So what I do, I'll go in here, I'll pop a hole on one side and then rip the rest of the tube right off. Go in there and just rip the rest of that tube right off. So now I'm going to take what I was telling you about earlier, my tin snips I use for diamond or use for shears, which work perfectly, by the way, for any of you aspiring glass blowers out there or lamp workers. Go and heat the end here. Open that right up. As you can see, I got multiple different sizes of graphite rods here. So now I want to clean this up. I want to get that clear off of there. Just go in here, make sure it's all hot. Just cut it right off. Now, if it wasn't nice and warm like this, it'd be causing a lot of cracks and everything else. Now I'm just trying to make it all level. That's pretty good to me. What I'm doing is trying to heat the outer rim here all nice and even so I can expand it just a touch. Make a little bit bigger opening at the top here. It'd help if my ball grabbers weren't broken. That's why I'm holding it like this and twisting instead of just twisting in the flame. A little annoying, but hey, gotta deal with what you got for the time being. So I'm gradually going up in sizes on my graphite as to try and make this a nice circumference hole at the top. I mean, essentially I could use the jacks that they have over there, but it won't work properly because my ball grabber is not grabbing properly right now. So I'm kind of jimmy rigging it a little bit, but it still works. See, now I'm getting pretty happy with the size hole now. So what I'm going to do is go in with my paddle, graphite paddle, just make it look pretty. Flatten the top. You got to make sure that all the edges are nice and round so that if you go get a cork, put on the top of this, said cork will fit. I'm pretty happy with the way that looks. That's pretty much a jar. A small jar be it, but it's a jar. So now this guy's gonna go in the kiln. I'm just gonna make sure it sits pretty. Then it's gonna go in the kiln. Oh yeah, we're happy. It all works. So now this is gonna go in the kiln for about half hour. Glass has got, borosilicate glass has got to sit in the kiln at 10,000 or 1,060 degrees for a half hour per 1/4 inch thickness of the glass. So if I'm making marbles or something like that, they'll be in there for a while. And that's a jar.